My colleagues had a scoop this morning about Mr. Trump's thoughts on the AT&T-Time Warner deal. He is seemingly not a fan of it. I don't know what your thoughts are on that particular story.
Well, I mean, who cares what he thinks?
Really?
Unless he's going to micromanage and now he's going to be head of antitrust and go through the whole legal process, he's just doing what he does. He's making noise on a subject he really doesn't know anything about.
I mean, he has taken a bit of a chunk out of the shares today for the companies.
Well, yeah, the thing is the one thing that, because I've heard this a lot recently, which is if he says something, your stock goes down.
Right, okay.
You know? I mean, yeah, fine. If your stock is subject, more than for a day or two, to his comments being a negative drag on you, then you got a very lousy business, and it's all, you know, it's all today's ridiculous silliness.
There was some other merger efforts last year in this similar space. CBS Viacom obviously fell apart. Do you see any likelihood of that deal being resurrected?
No, it could have never happened anyway.
Oh, really? Why do you think that?
Well, because if you're a CBS shareholder, sorry, if you're on the CBS Special Committee representing the shareholders, you are not going to buy Viacom at anything but a bargain sale price.
Okay.
If you are on the other side on the Special Committee, you're not going to sell it at anything but a premium. So it was never going to happen anyway. So I don't know why everybody made noise.
How would you try to turn around Paramount?
How would I try and turn around Paramount?
Or is there a way it can be turned around?
You make good movies,
okay.
It turns. It ain't hard.
You just don't think that
movie business is the simplest business, you know, compared to what's going on here and compared to the changes in the world. I mean, narrative storytelling on a big screen, or a small screen, but on a big screen is very simple. You have a story, you tell it, and people either like it or not. There's no tech involved. There's no, you know, it's quite binary.
I mean, on the flip side, of course, a lot of tech companies are increasingly looking at the content space. Netflix is the obvious example. Amazon has made huge strides in this space. There's been a lot of talk about the prospect of Apple getting into the space. Do you think that companies need to own content to be able to get into them? And why is that?
Because all of the content, look, if you own content, you want it distributed everywhere. So these tech companies who are engaged in distribution, which is what Apple is doing, it's what Amazon has with Prime, et cetera. They're essentially distributors. They can buy anybody's content. They don't need to own directly the content. Now, if they're going to actually begin to produce content themselves, then that's another thing. But you know, that's something you have to really have not tech aptitude for. You actually have to have an ability to make editorial choices.
Just the sense they maybe don't need to own content, does that also hold true for sports, particularly live sports, of course? It's this slightly different model, one assumes.
No, it's, well, look, if you could get, and if you could actually take away from broadcast and cable a large sports franchise, it would probably be very good for an over-the-top service to do so. So, you know, live is a completely different category because live, you know, it is the one thing that you can't technologically mess with. Live is live.
The Vimeo signed a deal with Lionsgate recently.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear sort of how that came about, actually.
Well, we're developing Vimeo into a platform for everybody to use, and we've gone to many, many people. And one of the most recent places we went and said, why don't you put your programming on Vimeo, on our platform? And they said yes, and we're going to do much more of that.
So are there a few deals impending that we need to keep an eye out for?
Yes.
Can you give us some sort of time frame?
No,
weeks, months?
No. You know, look, we're very much now in business.
Okay.
So weeks, months, years, we're going to be at this. And we think because we have an independent platform that is actually not owned by any of the totalitarian companies, that we have a niche and a chance that because of that independence, we can barrel through.
Does that mean that, you know, now quite often when you talk about the online video services for TV series, films, you tend to talk about Netflix, Amazon. Is the hope then people go Netflix, Amazon, Vimeo?
Of course.
So it's going to be a direct competitor to those guys?
Well, I think an indirect. Because the truth is, you know, Netflix Netflix is always going to be, unless they monumentally screw it up. They have such size worldwide now that I don't think anybody is going to be close to Netflix. But that doesn't mean they take essentially the market share of the world. I just don't think anybody will be as large, but I think there will be plenty of room for niche programmers and programmers that have, many, many millions of subscribers, just not to their level.
What's your take on the way that the cable TV bundle is developing? Is it dead? Are these new approaches killing it?
Well, they're not. I don't think anything really kills anything like dead. But look,
it's perhaps unraveling.
You've had for 40 years or so, you've had cable being the only place that you could get a bundle of programming. That's ended. Now you can get, all you need is an internet connection, and you can get a la carte, you can get little bundles, etc. So cable just has to evolve, and it cannot, its base of warehousing everything and selling it for one package price is gone.
What do you think then does work? You mentioned a few possibilities. What are you particularly bullish on being the model which does go through?
Go through where?
Well, I mean, the successful way for the cable package to evolve.
No, I don't think that, I think that the cable operators are essentially now in the data transmission business and no longer really in the program business. They used to be in the program business, it's very healthy margins. Those have decreased as programmers have asked more and more money. Now, when you have so many different alternatives, they're in the data business. That's their competitive edge.
Does that explain some of the rationale behind the AT&T-Time Warner deal? There has been a certain amount of skepticism, aside from the Trump element, of course, but from an operational perspective, skepticism behind it. I don't know if you think there is a logic behind that deal.
Well, I just don't think there's a lot of industrial logic behind it, but because I don't think that a data company needs to own a content company or a tech company, data company. AT&T needs to own content. It can buy the content at fair market prices. No content, I think, in this area is going to be particularly exclusive. So, but I'm not there. It's not my strategy. It's their strategy. They're smarter than me.
Well, I don't possibly cast those aspersions. You've, of course, flown in from LA to here. We're here at CES. Is there anything you're particularly looking forward to seeing? Maybe some networking you're looking forward to doing?
I don't know. That's a horrible word.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. We're talking about networks. It was a neat segue.
Yes, yeah, I know. Well, nice segue, but not for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to wander around. I'm going to go to a few different places to see some things. I'm particularly amazed. If you came to CES 3 years ago, much less 5, 10, 15 years ago, you'd never see a car on the floor. Now, cars are technology.
Do you have a vision for pushing content into cars? Putting videos into cars? Yeah, I mean, I was there at the Corning stand a little bit earlier, and they're really bullish on putting screens into cars, the back seats, into the front seat for the passengers, and they showed me this panel, essentially similar to an iPad, where they could pick out videos and push that onto the screen. Is that something that you would be keen to get into? No. Okay, simple answer. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been insightful as ever, and I do hope you have a wonderful show.